Most people think wealth comes from finding the next hot stock. But historically, some of the greatest fortunes were built much more quietly, through ownership, patience, and reinvested dividends. If someone had invested $10,000 into the S&P 500 decades ago and simply stayed invested while reinvesting dividends, the long-term growth would have been enormous. Not because of luck, but because compounding slowly turns time into an investor's greatest advantage. That's why dividend investing has attracted everyone from ordinary retirees to legendary investors like Warren Buffett. Dividend income may seem small in the beginning, a few dollars here, a quarterly payment there. But over long periods, those payments can snowball into something far more powerful, a growing stream of passive income. So in this video, we're breaking down 3 major strategies investors use to live on dividends and build long-term financial stability. And to make everything practical, we'll follow a fictional investor named John as he explores different approaches to turning investments into monthly income. Before jumping into the strategies, though, there are 3 things every dividend investor needs to understand first. The first is defining your financial goals. Are you trying to supplement your income, retire early, build wealth slowly over decades, or generate immediate cash flow? Because the right strategy depends entirely on what you want your money to do. Second is risk tolerance. Higher yields often come with higher risk. Some dividend investments are extremely stable but grow slowly. Others offer massive payouts but experience larger price swings. And third, understand that investing is not one size fits all. Different investors need different approaches depending on age, income, lifestyle, and time horizon. With that foundation in place, let's look at the first strategy. The first approach is building an individual dividend stock portfolio. This is the classic dividend investing method, buying shares of companies that regularly return profits to shareholders through dividends. Some investors focus on reliability. These are businesses with long track records of paying dividends consistently through recessions, inflation, and market downturns. Companies like Johnson & Johnson, Coca-Cola, and Procter & Gamble became famous partly because of their long histories of rewarding shareholders. For investors like John, these companies may not produce explosive growth overnight, but they can provide something equally valuable: stability. Imagine building a portfolio worth $100,000 with an average dividend yield of 3%. That portfolio could generate roughly $3,000 per year in dividend income, even before considering future dividend increases or stock appreciation. Other investors prefer dividend growth stocks. These are companies that not only pay dividends, but consistently increase them over time. Businesses like Apple, Microsoft, and Visa have all become known for growing earnings while gradually increasing shareholder payouts. This strategy is powerful because inflation becomes less damaging over time. If dividend payments continue growing year after year, the investor's income stream can potentially expand faster than rising living costs. Then there's the third category: high-yield investing. This strategy focuses on assets designed to produce larger income payments immediately. That often includes REITs, utility companies, pipeline operators, and other income-heavy sectors. The attraction is obvious: higher monthly or quarterly cash flow. But investors also need to understand the trade-off. Extremely high yields can sometimes signal elevated risk, slower growth, or financial pressure inside the company itself. That's why sustainable dividends matter more than simply chasing the biggest percentage. The second major strategy is investing through dividend funds and ETFs. Instead of selecting individual companies yourself, dividend funds bundle together dozens or even hundreds of dividend-paying stocks into a single investment. For many people, this approach is simpler and more diversified. Funds like the Vanguard Dividend Appreciation ETF or the iShares Select Dividend ETF give investors exposure to multiple dividend-paying companies at once. That diversification can reduce the impact of a single company performing poorly. For example, if John invested in a broad market ETF tracking the S&P 500, he wouldn't just be relying on one business to succeed. He would own small pieces of hundreds of major companies across multiple industries. Historically, broad market investing combined with dividend reinvestment has been one of the most effective long-term wealth-building strategies available to ordinary investors. And over time, reinvesting dividends creates a compounding effect that becomes increasingly powerful the longer an investor stays consistent. The third strategy is using annuities for predictable retirement income. Unlike stocks or ETFs, annuities are insurance-based financial products designed specifically to provide regular payments over time. Some investors use them as part of a retirement income plan because they prioritize predictability over growth. A fixed annuity, for example, can provide scheduled income regardless of what the stock market is doing. That stability appeals to retirees who want consistency and reduced exposure to market volatility. But annuities also come with trade-offs: lower flexibility, fees, surrender periods, and potentially lower long-term growth compared to equities. That's why many investors use annuities as only one part of a broader strategy, rather than relying on them entirely. During market crashes, however, predictable income streams can provide significant psychological comfort. While stock portfolios fluctuate daily, certain annuity structures continue making payments regardless of market conditions. For John, the key lesson is this: there is no single, perfect dividend strategy. Some investors prioritize stability. Others focus on growth. Some want immediate income. Others care more about long-term compounding. The most effective approach usually combines multiple ideas together while matching personal goals and risk tolerance. Because ultimately, living on dividends is not about getting rich overnight. It's about gradually building assets capable of generating income long after the workday ends. And the earlier that process begins, the more powerful compounding becomes over time. If you enjoyed this breakdown, check out the next video where we explore how much monthly income different dividend portfolios can realistically generate from a $10,000 investment.